Oh, hi, I'm the True Wise Gamer, giving out my bad knowledge so you may understand games a bit better. You see, I originally was going to do Eternal Sonata. However, after my software wouldn't let me just rename the footage, well, all the footage got deleted. Why? I'm not entirely sure myself. I still don't know. In any case, after losing all that footage, I had to choose a quick game to do because I am trying to actually get these videos done in about 2 weeks. So that way I don't have to worry about it and actually keep a stable amount of content out, at least minimum. If I can get them done in less than 2 weeks, that's cool, but otherwise I am going to try to aim for that. That still leaves a good question. What game am I going to cover? Because you see, I do actually try to have some games in my back burner so that way I can get them done quicker. It's just sometimes I want to try to do something else so that I'm not feeling like burnout and actually adding to my repertoire of games I would never try. Today's game is one of those games that I actually did want to try. That being Neon White.
But what made me choose to do this game in particular? Well, there are a bunch of reasons why. The more major reason is because I was already halfway done recording the game, thus it was just easier for me to just, finish that up, get it into the review pile, and just get it done. That and also, it was a more modern game, so I thought I would try to interspice more modern games into my reviews while still covering my more obscure game. Though funny story, I originally never actually heard of the game until a friend of mine from Discord, Zaf, actually told me about the game, and when I first saw the trailer for it, I was hooked. Or at least the visuals hit me in that right spot. After that, I tried the demo and I liked it, but it wasn't something I was into at the time. Otherwise, it was fine and something I would pick up later on. After a while, I actually got a PC upgrade, so I decided to buy a lot of games for it. That included Neon White, and also Guilty Gear Strive. Because I really love that game and I hope to cover it one day. I never finished the game because, as I mentioned before, it wasn't something I was entirely into. Something I did want to finish one day, but it wasn't my highest priority. But with that out of the way, let's actually talk about the developers. Angel Matrix. That seems familiar from somewhere. No idea where. And we also need to talk about the game's original creator, as in the one who fought it up first, Ben Esposito. I hope I got that right. I don't think the guy would mind. Would he?
Usually around here is where I actually talk about a game's development cycle, some interesting tidbits you would like to know. One of the oddest things about this game in all of the reviews, and I mean all of the reviews I've seen, not a single one mentioned this one little tiny tidbit about him that's super important yet unimportant at the same time. I know, right? But you must be wondering what the hell this thing is. Well, you see, that guy? This guy right here also made Sonic Dream Collection. I mean, he helped, but still, he worked on Sonic Dream Collection. That's one of the first few things you should mention about the guy. I mean, granted, he also helped make What Remains of Edith Finch, a game one of my friends told me is really good, and also the Fun Donut County. What? How has no one ever mentioned this? It's like if Tommy Wiseau made a good movie and we just all just never talked about it. It's what the actual hell? In any case, let's speed by and rev it up as we begin Neon White.
The game opens up with our main character waking up in a weird room with other people, as he is quickly told they are all dead and were destined for hell. Bummer. However, they are told that God is giving them a chance to basically earn a place in heaven by killing some demons. That will be the gist of the plot for a while, but more in a bit. We play as the guy called White, who came up with no memories of his past for the most part, except knowing that he was a killer from when he was alive. In fact, speaking of killer, is it just me or do these models look like something from Killer is Dead? Or Killer 7 if you prefer. Anyway, while also here, he gets a mask that is more of a color if anything that will go off if he doesn't play by their rule. Everyone gets one as well as the race begins to reach the top. You might be then asking, How do we reach the top? Well, by killing everything as quickly as humanly possible. And let me tell ya, it's not easy. As you can see from the gameplay, this game is a speedrunning game, getting the best time and whatnot, being pretty much your only goal for the most part. As you can also notice, the gameplay is in first person, which is actually a very odd choice to begin with. The reason is because, most times than not, it leaves you sort of blind as you have no particular size of your dimension at times, which can lead you into those moments of where you just say, oh, I just had it. Though to be fair to the game, it's not like it's a constant problem, it's just enough to make it a point to mention, because otherwise, it's most times than not an issue. In any case, while you have your basic movement, these will not be enough to reach the end of a stage, which is why you will have to rely on soul cards. In them contain a weapon, usually like a gun or a rocket launcher or whatnot, kinda like the way Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories did with the card system, which I'm surprised nobody made that comparison yet. By tossing the card away, you can get a special movement ability, like a double jump or an air dash, and for the most part, this will be the main use of the card, as most times than not, you'll just rely on the abilities to just kill enemies. Granted, the gun is required for certain moments, but again, not always. As long as you treat the game more as a puzzle game than a first-person shooter game, you'll be fine. And always remember that the puzzle is trying to figure out how the hell to get out of here as fast as humanly possible, if not beyond. I mean, getting to the end of a stage is really simple, but the hard part is it's doing that all correctly in a certain way so that you can maximize your time. Because this game is all about getting that perfect time. I cannot stress to you about how many times I just reset a level, not because I messed up and needed to reset. No, most times than not, it was just to get a better time. Well, until I got near the end where I just wanted to get the review done, and really, some of those stages were getting on my nerves. But even then, most of the stages were fine enough, and it also wasn't gatekeeping much, so it allowed me to just progress forward more easily. So let's get a little deeper into the gatekeeping thing, well, sort of. See, after every chapter or a set of missions, you get to go to heaven, and it kinda sucks because the believers are jerks. While here, you also gain missions from angels Gabby and Mikey, and if you're wondering why they look like cats, well, as the old saying goes, humanity can't understand or comprehend the divine, thus their minds are just literally making up shit as they go along. In any case, while they give missions to us, however, we do need a rank to continue to progress, which leads into the ranking system. See, the game ranks you with medals. You got your standard bronze, silver, and gold. Gold will increase your overall rank and allow you to progress more into the story. The highest rank you need to complete the game is rank 50, and with over 97 missions, you'll be probably fine. And if you're trying your best on each map, you'll be fine too, because as long as you're following the path closely enough and not wasting your time, you'll likely get a gold medal. In fact, as long as you complete stages, more things about the stage will become more revealed to you. Like example, a better route. You see, there is also another type of medal called the Ace medal. Basically, it's one of the more faster routes that shaves a lot of time from the lap. However, there is also a hidden red medal. It's basically the death time, it's just insane. If you can do them, more power to you, but I'm not insane enough to do those yet. There is also one other thing to collect in the game, those being gifts for the other neons you meet. These neons are going to be semi-regular as they know you and your history, but won't say for reasons not apparent, well, except Yellow because, well, as he puts it, they're dead, doesn't really matter what happened before. You can give the neons the gifts after each mission, or if you decide to just head back. By giving them these items, they unlock dialogue and also side quests where you play a certain mission with a stipulation, and really are the most interesting part about this game to be honest, since they actually give you a kinda cool challenge to work around. Like Yellow's missions are all about using regular platforming skills and not just your soul card abilities, except for guns. Red missions are just the opposite, being missions that are more focused on the gun abilities, constantly making the most use out of them. Violets are just evil. Herds are designed death traps, and if you're not paying attention to your surrounding, you will die a lot. Weirdly enough, this is one aspect not a lot of people ever talk about how these levels actually kind of show off the character's personality. I know like the dialogue does do that as well, but we'll get into that in a bit. I just felt like it was also a cool way to also emphasize their personality. In fact, I'm gonna try to see if I can prove it, if that's okay. If not, skip to this time frame. So let's get started. Yellow is straightforward, giving a very straightforward direction you need to follow, but really having no understanding of the things around him because he's an idiot, and likely didn't even know that their soul cards could even do that. Violet is a girl who seems nice at first, but is really sadistic, and the her levels just make it clear even with you thinking you know what's going on, she then just slaps you down, giving you another death trap. Red is trying to figure out stuff, seeming to know the most about what is going on, with her trying to actually go beyond that as well. There is also one more gift side quest, but I'll get into that in a bit. Though we should actually go back to the dialogue, and it's something that actually needs to be addressed. Because you see, this game's dialogue is a bit odd. By that I mean, the dialogue feels off, not in the cringy way everyone's talking about, I mean as in the way it's dished out. Yeah, I actually have no problem with the dialogue, cause trust me, I've seen worse. I played Final Fantasy 13. This is nothing to me. Cause at least here, they're trying to show off the character's personality with some charming lines here or there. Does it always work? No. But at least it's trying, which is again, more than Final Fantasy 13. Because you see, my problem is more about how it's dished out, because a lot of times, I'm not entirely sure how I'm supposed to handle this dialogue. By that I mean, do I just, every time I get a gift, should I just go back, or do I just wait until the mission's over? It feels like I'm supposed to try to do a mix of both, but otherwise, I'm not entirely sure. Which, let me divulge more into the plot so you can get what I'm talking about. After a bit, we meet Green, the guy who's been winning the last few rounds of this entire thing. With him, we kinda learn that the believers made it so that only one of them can stay in heaven, with even that not being infinite, just a year. That is mostly because they are jerks, and we'll get into more why in a bit. Anyway, Green is merciless, and he will just straight up kill other Neons. Heck, while trying to explore some ruins to find maybe something to help win the entire thing, Yellow sacrifices himself to save White from an attack from Green, who seems to know a lot about us, but we have no idea. And this is where the issue I was talking about the dialogue comes in. You see, by this point, I've already had a good idea of what's going on, since by giving off the gifts, dialogue kinda reveals certain aspects about the character, and if you give them enough gifts, a memory will be revealed about how they died, which can tell you everything you need to know, if not just straight up say what is up. Heck, I'm not even a fan of Yellow's death. Well, at least not this early. It feels like it's wasteful for the most part and could have worked better later on, but this feels entirely needless. But it is after this moment Red decides to let us in on a few things. Well, at first, but not everything since there's a lot of in-between going on here. But for now, let's just figure out what Red's plan is. Now, she believes all of this to be a sham, thinking that if they find the Book of Life, they can win. However, its true value isn't told to us until Mikey actually explains what's actually the deal with this place to begin with. Okay, strap in folks, cause this is where it gets weird. So, the believers were actually just normal dead people who really didn't like the version of the afterlife that God had originally for them. So, they decided to wage war against him. And won. Somehow this part is never really explained, and honestly, this part doesn't matter much, but at the same time, it's like, why did you have this thing and not bother to explain how? But in any case, God had two books, the Book of Death and the Book of Life. They don't particularly explain the true powers of the books, but they just basically explain it to be a tool God uses to judge people. If you were written into the Book of Life, you were granted eternal peace, but if you were kinda like a jerk and really don't want to change, you would be written into the Book of Death and become a demon. Yeah. That part is not really explained to us. Not like it matters, but still. The believers only have the Book of Death, with the Book of Life still in God's possession, hidden somewhere. God is actually talking to White, though how this is possible is not really clear. Kinda think like he's just a being that, even though he has a body, doesn't need it, I'm guessing. And he basically gives White the directions to where it is. However, a trap by Violet was laid there just right after they got the book. And to quickly explain the Neon steal, well, the main Neons were a part of a group of thieves, killers, and whatnot. And they all died during a bad heist of a former associate of Green, which he wanted revenge so much that he led them all to a death sentence. However, even with all that, Violet really wanted the attention of Green, thus why she attacked us. With Green appearing in since he actually couldn't get the book naturally and waited for White to get it, since God wasn't going to reveal the Book of Life to him. However, if you notice anything about Green, he's kind of a jerk and doesn't really give a shit. He even nearly straight up kills her.
This is actually something I really want to ask. What the hell does it mean for them to die here? Like, do they just go beyond the firmament again and just wait it out till the next time? I'm just asking for clarity's sake, since they never actually explain this in-game.
However, even in these final moments, she kind of retaliates with blowing up the Book of Life, scattering its pages out into the world, which is where we need to recollect it. I believe it was around this section where I stopped caring about the rankings in general, since to me, it stopped being fun. I think it's mostly due to my fatigue of the loop, that it wasn't just hitting the same spots for me anymore. Though I will say the section of collecting the pages of the Book of Life was really cool, with the card that allows you to just instantly teleport. It was actually really fun. It was also around this section where I was noticing the stages were getting longer and longer. And let me tell ya, if a stage went longer than 2 minutes for me, I could just straight up tell I was not going to enjoy it. Because to me, it was boring to just have to reset due to making a mistake near the tail end of it, and it's not helped that the gift item is also far into the stage. If you didn't notice earlier, I didn't go into them really on how to get them, since I felt it flow better here and can deal with the critique better. That's not to say that they're not interesting to get. I mean, like, they're very interesting challenge in and of themselves, basically asking you to hold up on some cards with you so that you can actually be able to get them. With also maybe with the idea of helping you figure out maybe some faster ways to get through a level. Heck, it allowed me to actually explore the levels a bit more, which the reason why I didn't talk about it earlier was because, well, it didn't flow right, and really the details in the level, but more of the layout in and of themselves. And that's not even to say that they look bad, they look fine. Like, I prefer the first few levels, but otherwise, they're still good. I also want to mention the soundtrack, which I don't think the soundtrack is bad. I don't know what's with me and not talking about game music unless there's a single track I like and remember. And that's not to say that the soundtrack, again, is bad. I remember one soundtrack song was really good. I'll put up the name on it because I really can't remember off the top of my head, nor do I have it on my script for some reason. Regardless of that, it's still fine. Though let's actually get back to the game again and talk about how annoying the gifts can be. Some of these skips require some really, and I do mean really precise type of platforming, which, like, I remember trying to do this one where you had to rocket jump off a building for a while just to reach a gift, and even then, it's possible that you will fail. And by the end, they became downright evil. The final gift type I didn't talk about was for green. And while you don't give them to green, you just throw them in the ocean for some reason. Though that technically is a lie. I'm not talking about getting the item, because getting the gift in and of itself is easy, but getting the chance to get them is evil. Since they require a lot of work just to get them, because otherwise, again, they're really simple. Heck, his final gift can really suck it, because not only is it on a 2-minute stage that requires a lot of precise platforming, which can really go suck it, but also require even more precise platforming, which can go suck it too. So after collecting them all, Mikey then reveals, of all time, something called the Inkhorn. It was just a tool that he used to write in the book. However, the believers actually threw it out beyond the firmament, which is where everyone goes after they die, so that even if he comes back, he really couldn't do anything against them. With seemingly nowhere to go, they decide to go to Green, since he most likely has a plan, because that would be awkward if he didn't. Because you see, he didn't actually kill all those neons just for the fun of it. I mean, like, it was a part of the reason, but there was a bigger scheme in it all. You see, his plan is to actually make a bigger hole in the firmament so it can slip in. However, he needs a lot of power just to make that hole, which is where the dead neons come in. Mikey explained earlier that, you see, normal neons can't kill demons, but angels can. So the believers actually used the carcasses of dead angels after the war just to make masks for the neons so they could fight the demons. However, for it to work, he needs someone to actually, use angel fire on them to explode them all. Which, if one of them pulls off their mask, will ignite it all. So Red decides to sacrifice herself so that we could defeat Green.
Now, here's actually something to critique. This is entirely stupid. Why, you ask? They have Mikey! Mikey is an angel, so he can use holy fire. Meaning they could just ask him to just, I don't know, throw some fire over there while they get away fast enough so that they aren't caught up in the explosion. Seriously, it's not that hard, and I get why they wrote it that way, so it was a tragic sacrifice. But it's a stupid one where if you think about it for like 5 seconds, it's like obvious.
Whatever, as she dies, the hand for the inkhorn rises up as we begin the final battle with Green, and it's alright. Not bad, but it just goes on way too long for my liking. Actually, none of Green's fights were good to me. I know what they were trying to do, but it was still dull. Anyway, after the fight, White gets the pin, with Mikey coming in his angel form, which, yeah, about accurate. At this point, he has to help the other angels from God, since, you know, his return is kinda causing more issues, thus leaves it to White to handle the situation with Green. In the normal ending, White writes him into the Book of Death, ending him, but it results in the bad end where White is also written into it by God. But you get the option to write him in the Book of Life if you gain all the gifts to everyone. Well, except the angels, but actually White wasn't that a requirement. Anyway, it results in them kinda sorta reconciling, which is kinda still bullshit, but regardless, as the game comes to a close with God writing all the characters' names into the Book of Life, ending the game.
At the end of the day, this game's pretty good. I was actually really surprised that I actually liked the game. The gameplay is pretty good, pretty overall. It has some puzzle things that I'm not into much, but otherwise it's fun. The graphics are somewhat subpar, but otherwise you're not going to notice it too much because you're just, again, speeding by them. The music, after listening to it, is pretty good. Not anything I would like remember off the top of my head, but if somebody put it on, I'd say, neat. Next time, well, since there's some Lord of the Rings stuff happening, I thought we would actually talk about one of the games. And the one no one ever wants to talk about. That being Lord of the Rings, The Third Age. And weirdly enough, turn-based RPG. See you next time.